It's hard to believe that just 10 years ago, Arkansas was a top 10 team, including a top 5 finish in 2011. But since 2012, Arkansas has cycled through 3 different head coaches and has become practically irrelevant. Can Sam Pittman be the guy to turn things around in Fayetteville? Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, the best kept secret in all of college football. Today, bringing you our Arkansas Razorbacks college football predictions. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos, as well as check out everything down in the description where you can visit our official website, thegridironexpert.com, to sign up for our weekly newsletter and gain access to our exclusive expert picks, and also follow us on social media over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So Hog fans, you haven't had much to cheer about over the past few seasons. But the one thing that you have been able to cheer about is the fact that Chad Morris is gone. The guy that was destined for failure when he arrived in Fayetteville back in 2018 went just 4-20 in less than 2 years with the Razorbacks. That included 0 SEC victories, 0 victories over Power 5 opponents, but did include losses to Colorado State, North Texas, San Jose State, and Western Kentucky, the final nail in the coffin. So in comes Sam Pittman, a guy who understands Arkansas, a guy who has supported and loved Arkansas his entire life, a guy who was the offensive line coach at Arkansas for a few years under Brett Bielema. There's a lot of reason to be optimistic with Pittman taking over the new head coaching position in Fayetteville. But can he turn the Razorbacks around in 2020? We look at their offense here, guys. They returned 8 starters from a unit that was 111th in the country last year. Offense was just as bad as the defense, which really sums up the entire Arkansas program over the past few seasons. But Pittman made a fantastic hire in bringing in Kendall Briles as the new offensive coordinator. Pittman also did a fantastic job utilizing the transfer portal, bringing in former Florida quarterback Feleipe Franks, who has to work on his decision-making and certainly needs to work on his maturity, but will be better than any quarterback that has played for Arkansas under the past 2 years for Chad Morris. The Razorbacks returned Rakeem Boyd, one of the best running backs in the SEC, who rushed for over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. They returned a very underrated wide receiver core led by Mike Woods, Traylon Burks, and Trey Knox. And Sam Pittman, he's a fantastic recruiter and a fantastic offensive line coach, and the Razorbacks returned 4 offensive linemen from last season. So those guys up front, which carried the Razorbacks during the Bielema era, Pittman being a major reason of that, will be a major strength yet again in 2020. Defensively, Pittman made another fantastic hire by bringing in Barry Odom as defensive coordinator, the former head coach at Missouri. The defense ranked 110th nationally last year, and the biggest key for Arkansas is their run defense. That's got to improve. Arkansas was getting killed left and right on the ground game as they allowed over 220 rushing yards per game in 2019. But Dorian Gerald is back up front along that defensive line, returning from an injury. That should help out. Xavier Kelly transfers over from Clemson. That should help out on the defensive line as well. And the linebacking core, led by Bumper Poole and Oklahoma transfer Levi Draper, should also be very strong as well. And don't sleep on that secondary either. A very young secondary that could surprise some people in 2020. So we take a look at Arkansas' schedule here. The first thing you'll notice is that we don't have any wins given. No wins have been put down for Arkansas, not even Charleston Southern, because of the past 2 years under Chad Morris had taught us anything, it's that you can't take anything for granted. You can't take any win for granted because Arkansas knows how to lose games. We start with the game against Nevada, a team that went 7-6 last year out of the Mountain West, a team that did beat Purdue in the season opener last year. They returned 9 starters on that offensive side of the ball and could challenge this Arkansas defense. But despite returning so many starters, Nevada ranked 101st nationally in their offense. The experience is there. The explosiveness is not. It's a new era for Razorback football, expectations aren't necessarily high, but they're much higher than they have been over the past few years. And I don't think Pittman allows his Hogs to lose the season opener at home. Arkansas starts off 1-0 with a win over Nevada. They then go on the road to take on Notre Dame, the first ever meeting between the Fighting Irish and the Razorbacks. And this is going to be a really fun matchup, guys. This is going to be one that should be very intriguing and much closer than people expect. I think when you look at this game, Notre Dame, of course, will be heavily favored. But I think Arkansas probably beats the spread in this game before they ultimately fall to Notre Dame. Too much firepower at quarterback with Ian Book, and that Notre Dame defense is one that you can't afford to sleep on either, one that wreaked havoc in the backfield last year. So I think Notre Dame at home takes care of Arkansas, but it's much closer than people expect. I see this being very similar to Notre Dame's 2018 game against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, of course, one of the worst teams in the SEC as well, but went on the road to South Bend and only lost to Notre Dame 22-17. Fighting Irish cannot afford to sleep on a Razorbacks team that will improve in 2020. Arkansas then goes on the road to take on Mississippi State, kicking off SEC play here. This is a Mississippi State team that killed Arkansas last year 54-24 and racked up 460 rushing yards, 234 of which came from one of the best running backs in the SEC in Kylan Hill. So that's kind of the funny thing about this game is Mike Leach comes into Starkville now, trying to bring in that air raid offense. But he might not even have to throw the ball that much in this game if Arkansas's run defense hasn't improved. Kylan Hill could put up some big numbers and maybe win the game single-handedly for the Bulldogs. I do think Arkansas's defense tightens up just a little bit, but you pair Kylan Hill with KJ Costello, the transfer quarterback from Stanford, and a very solid air raid offense, assuming he can build chemistry with those wide receivers. I just don't like Arkansas's chances in Starkville. It's a lot closer than 30 points like we saw last year, but the Razorbacks drop it. And this extends their SEC losing streak, guys. They've lost 19 straight conference games. This will make it 20. Arkansas having not won an SEC conference game since October 28th, 2017. They lose to Mississippi State and then travel to Arlington to take on Texas A&M. And look, this is a game that's for some people easy to predict. You mark it down as an A&M victory and you move on. But you look at the history, guys, this is no gimme for Texas A&M. No matter how good they are, no matter how bad Arkansas is, the Razorbacks always give the Aggies a close fight. Yes, Arkansas has lost 8 straight to the Aggies, but 5 of the last 6 games have been decided by 1 possession, many of those going to overtime. So you look at this Texas A&M team, which could be the best team that Jimbo Fisher has fielded entering year 3 in College Station. This game will be decided by 1 possession yet again. I don't care how much hype A&M is getting. I don't care how bad people think Arkansas will be. It will be decided by 1 possession. But ultimately, it's going to be A&M that extends their streak to 9 over the Razorbacks. 9 straight wins for Texas A&M over the Razorbacks. I think it's close yet again. Turnovers have been the key in this game over the past few years. Texas A&M having 2 turnovers both in 2018 and in 2019. But I think it's a costly Feleipe Franks turnover that gives the Aggies a victory in this one. Arkansas returns home, though, to take on Charleston Southern. We're going to give them a win. Surely, Arkansas can take care of business here against Charleston Southern. They are now 2-3. And they're 2-3 going into a brutal 2-game stretch against Alabama and LSU, arguably the top 2 teams in the SEC West, in back-to-back weeks. Luckily for Arkansas, though, they get them at home. We're going to give Arkansas losses in both of these games. Now, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You look at the Alabama game, a team Arkansas has lost to 13 years in a row. Arkansas has lost 13 straight games to Alabama, including a 48-7 loss last year and a 65-31 loss in 2018, last time Alabama visited Fayetteville. I think Arkansas can put some points on this Alabama defense in Fayetteville. I think this game will be somewhat similar to the 2018 matchup. The offense does relatively well. They get creative. They catch Alabama off guard, but the defense is no match for that Bama offense. Same here for LSU. Battle for the Golden Boot. Usually Arkansas gives LSU a good test, gives them a tough fight in this rivalry game. That just hasn't been the case in years past. LSU defeated the Razorbacks 56-20 in Death Valley last year. Arkansas has lost 4 straight to their rival down south, and I just don't think LSU is going to take that much of a step back. I know they lose Joe Burrow. I know they lose so many key pieces, but I don't think LSU takes that big of a step back. Not enough to come on the road and drop this game. So Arkansas now sitting at 2-5, going into their bye week to take on Tennessee on Halloween. And this is a Tennessee team that Arkansas has not faced since 2015, and a Tennessee team that has not visited Fayetteville since 2011. Both of those resulted in Arkansas wins, by the way. This is a huge year for Tennessee, guys. A year with high expectations, a year with a lot of experience, a year that many think that Tennessee could finally turn the corner. Maybe they win 8 or 9 games under Jeremy Pruitt in the regular season and set up a big 2021 season. So a lot of high expectations coming out of Knoxville. They have a strong offensive line. They have a very strong run game. They just need better and consistent play out of Jarrett Garantano. The biggest number I see here for Tennessee is that they allowed 140.5 rushing yards per game last year. So if that defense doesn't fix that, Rakeem Boyd could have a big day on the ground for the Razorbacks. And I think that's exactly what happens. I think Arkansas snaps that, by this point, a 23-game conference losing streak and upsets Tennessee in Fayetteville. And I know this will catch a lot of people off guard. And a lot of people will disagree. Here's why. Arkansas's offense will take a major step forward. That's a check. If Tennessee's defense isn't up to par, Rakeem Boyd could break out a few big runs in this game like he did countless times last year and set up some deep play action throws from Feleipe Franks. He's got a heck of an arm. Arkansas is coming off a bye week here. Tennessee is coming off a game against Alabama. And while the Volunteers do get to host that game, they're going to be very emotional and beat down regardless of the result. If they beat Alabama, they're high on themselves, they're high, and you look for a letdown game. That letdown game could be on the road in Fayetteville. They lose to Alabama, whether it's super close or a blowout, there is such a thing as a Bama hangover. We've seen it time and time again ever since Nick Saban took over down in Tuscaloosa. I think all of that, to me, sets up for a close game in Fayetteville, and it's the Razorbacks and Sam Pittman that snap a 23-game conference losing streak against the Volunteers. They then travel on the road against Auburn, and the losing streak starts up again in SEC conference play. They fall to Auburn, an intriguing matchup, of course, because this is Chad Morris, now the offensive coordinator at Auburn, taking on his former team. And I can guarantee you the offense this year, just year one under Sam Pittman and year one under Kendall Briles, will look light years better than anything you saw in the 2 years under Chad Morris. But it's Auburn that's going to be able to get the win. They defeated the Razorbacks 51-10 last year. Arkansas has lost 4 straight to the Tigers. They have not won on the Plains since 2012, and I just don't see that changing this year with an improving Bo Nix, a speedy wide receiver core, and an underrated defense. Arkansas then returns home to take on Ole Miss. They've got 3 wins here, guys, and the remaining 3 games are winnable. So maybe they win all 3 and they go bowling. I don't think that's the case, though. I think they drop a home game against Ole Miss and the Lane Train. Why? Because Arkansas's rushing defense was one of the worst in the country last year. While the Ole Miss-Arkansas series has been very competitive in recent years, 4 of the last 5 between the Rebels and the Razorbacks being decided by 4 or less, not even 7, 4 or less over the past 5 years. Lane Kiffin and this offense is going to be too much for this Arkansas defense. Jerry and Ely and John Rice Plumlee are going to be so difficult to stop on the ground. The Arkansas run defense was 122nd in the nation last year, and the Razorbacks have never, ever fared well against dual-threat quarterbacks. And a dangerous RPO offense that Ole Miss is going to have under Lane Kiffin, especially in a game for Ole Miss that is huge in terms of their bowl hopes. Even though Arkansas has home field advantage, I just don't see them pulling off this victory. I do see them squeaking out a victory over Louisiana Monroe, though. A team that should improve in Sun Belt Conference play, and of course, a game that will bring back bad memories for Hog fans as the Razorbacks lost to the Warhawks back in 2012 as the 8th ranked team in the country, one of the biggest upsets in college football history, that of course being in the John L. Smith era. But I think the game being played in Fayetteville, Arkansas gets a win over Louisiana Monroe. They've clinched their 4th win of the season. which means they've matched the win total over the past 2 years combined under Chad Morris. And they round out the season with a game against Missouri in Kansas City, who is also dealing with a brand new head coach. Eli Drinkwitz coming over from Appalachian State to take over the job with the Tigers in Columbia. This game will be played at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, so not a home game for the Tigers, even though it would be their year to host. And I am predicting yet another conference win for the Razorbacks. They are going to get their second SEC win and finish the season 5-7. Eli Drinkwitz is a guy that I do not have a lot of faith in Columbia. I do not have much faith in him at Missouri. I think he's going to be way in over his head, maybe very similar to Chad Morris and what he did at Arkansas, jumping up from SMU to the SEC. It's a much bigger jump and a much more difficult task than some people think. Drinkwitz does not have much of an offense. While he's an offensive mind, Missouri has way too many offensive questions. The defense will be strong, but Arkansas's offense will improve drastically this year, and they only lost to the Tigers by 10 last year. Only lost to the Tigers by 10 last year in Little Rock. I think they have just enough to go on to Kansas City at a neutral site and snag the battle line or the borderline trophy to snap that 4-game losing streak to the Tigers. And Arkansas finishes 5-7 with 2 SEC conference wins. It might sound ridiculous. It might sound impossible. But I can promise you that what you see out of Sam Pittman in his first year in Fayetteville, the effort, the stats, the wins, everything will be way better than anything that Arkansas saw over the 2 years of the Chad Morris era. He was in over his head, and as we mentioned earlier, he was set up for failure. Sam Pittman, he knows what it takes to win. He knows the Arkansas culture. He wants to be in Fayetteville, and you will see all of that through the way he coaches and through the way his players play out on the field. Arkansas surprises some people. They fall just short of a bowl game. 5-7 the maximum, 3-9 the worst, but I'm going with the max here for the Razorbacks, a team that is certainly trending in the right direction. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Also, check out everything down in the description below. Check out our website, thegridironexpert.com, and our social media pages over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.